Very good evening to all the viewers. I warmly welcome you all on behalf of the Managing Trustees of Lotus and Chrysanthemum Trust to this special lecture. Namaste and Konnichiwa. Our trust is dedicated to fostering deeper exploration and appreciation of the Indo-Japanese cultural exchanges, and it is a non-profit organization that is dedicated to promoting cultural links between India and Japan. Today's lecture, Japanese Design Aesthetics Interwoven with Nature and Sustainability, delves into how Japanese design, deeply rooted in tradition and holistic thinking, reflects an intrinsic love for nature. From ancient times to the present, Japan has upheld principles of circular living, emphasizing sustainability through the use of natural materials, energy efficiency, and reducing waste. Despite being one of the world's most advanced nations, Japan continues to maintain a philosophy of harmonious coexistence with nature, which is reflected in multiple aspects of life from architecture to everyday design. And we are honored to have with us today Dr. Anu Jindal, an eminent art historian, artist, and curator, whose expertise in Japanese art makes her the perfect guide for today's discussion. Dr. Jindal holds a PhD in Japanese art and has conducted extensive research at the Doshisha University of Kyoto as a Japanese Foundation Fellow. She has served also as a research professor at the International Research Center for Japanese Studies, Japan, and was a professor at the National Institute of Fashion Technology, New Delhi. With numerous national with numerous national and international publications to her credit, she is also the founder director of the Purple Streak Center for Arts, an initiative dedicated to promoting art, design, and craft through interactive programs. I, Ms. Manali Momaya, your today's host, once again welcome Dr. Jindal on behalf of the Lotus and Chrysanthemum Trust and Dr. Geeta. Ma'am, I also welcome you to this special lecture. And with this, I would now like to hand over to Dr. Jindal.
Thank you, Manali.
Thank you, Manali.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Yes. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to Geeta and to you. And namaste, Konbanwa to all. Thank you for joining us. And today's topic, as Manali is introduced, is extremely interesting. It's Japanese design aesthetics interwoven with nature and sustainability. This is a topic which is extremely close to my heart, and in all various areas of my work, which is as an art historian, as an artist, as a curator, I am emphasizing on this now for several years: environmental conservation, the need for mitigation of climate change, etc. And that is the reason why I love today's topic so much. So to start with, Manali, may we have the PowerPoint, please? Thank you. So the picture on the first slide, it's the entrance to the Neizu Museum in Tokyo. And I'll be talking at length about this. It's an extremely beautiful image, which is kind of explains on its own a lot. Now, the Japanese love for nature, it comes from ancient times, and it reflects in multiple aspects of life. Japanese design principles, they are rooted in tradition and holistic thinking and deeply connected to the Japanese love for nature. This love leads to emphasizing sustainability, use of natural materials, energy efficiency, and focusing on reducing waste and consumption. Japan today, as we all know, is one of the most developed and advanced nations globally. Yet love for nature and sustainable living is seen in the circular living. Circular as in it encompasses everybody and the community living, and the need to recycle, and so that it comes back in a way. That's what it means by circular. And then the harmonious coexistence of humans with nature in its myriad aspects. The inherent Japanese religion called Shinto, that has a kind of nature worship which is encouraged. They have the concept of the okami, which are like supernatural entities, and these forces are believed to inhabit all living and non-animate beings. And it is even seen in things like gestures. So it resides in even, of course, in living organic beings, and also inanimate objects like, let's say, mountains, stones, water. So that is the Shinto religion, which blends beautifully with Buddhism and with any other kind of faith that is practiced in Japan today. And in this, every sentient being has its integral part in the weave of life. Love for animals is really greatly appreciated. And I suppose you all have heard of the statue of Hachiko, which is in Tokyo. And Hachiko was this dog whose master died, and but in spite of that, he waited for several years at the station for his master to return. And this has been in a Richard Gere movie also, the same story. It's a beautiful story. The changing seasons, every season is a new form of natural beauty springs up. And I suppose most of us have heard of the beauty of the sakura, the cherry blossom. And right now, it's called hanami, the viewing of the cherry blossoms. And right now, it is on in Japan. It will continue till April. And they are also, they represent the transience, the impermanence of life, which is a key concept in the design principles also. I'll be talking about it a little later. And the flowers, they just last for 2 weeks. And then when they are falling also, that itself has its own beauty. And then they get scattered on the ground, that also has its own beauty. Then they float on the water bodies. You have water bodies everywhere, in of course the parks and in private houses also. So like in the picture that you see here, these are of course lily pads which you see, and that beautiful heron and that piece of stone, all very integral part of Japanese design, these aspects. So nature, wherever it is, and not just in the physical appearance, but the atmosphere it creates, the very concept of it, the various elements of nature that we all encounter, enjoy, feel, perceive, all of these are very important. The lower picture that you see, that's called butterfly stool. It's made in natural material. It's made in wood, engineered wood, which has been heated and then bent like this, and it's in the shape of a butterfly. It's inspired by the shape of a butterfly. So here we have two aspects of the Japanese love for nature. One is the form, which has been taken from the butterfly, and two is the use of natural material, which is wood. Just before I tell you about the various design interpretations, expressions that I'm talking about, let me just hark back a little back to history. And in painting, a very, very famous artist by the name of Sesshu Toyu. He was in the Muromachi period in the 15th century. And he worked in sumie and suibokuga, that's ink painting or water and ink painting. And he was a Zen monk, and Zen is pervaded totally with minimalism, with austerity, and with that doing away with all that is unnecessary. So in sumie, in ink painting, you will just have mostly black with little touches of color at the most, and so it will be a black and white painting. And very often they would make the monk in his studio. So the studio is set in some beautiful a remote mountainside, and it can have a backdrop of water, of pine trees, of course, and it's just a simple thatched hut. And the monk is sitting there and he's writing and he's enjoying himself so much. He's one with nature. So that is why I'm mentioning the painting of Sesshu Toyu. Another example from the arts is in poetry. Waka and haiku are very famous forms of Japanese poetry. If you look at the screen on top, there is a haiku poem which I have written there. It's very famous, from a very famous haiku poet called Basho. So the on the side it's written in Japanese, and the English version is an ancient pond. Suddenly, a frog jumps in. The sound of water. So, so short, the haiku are 17 syllable, and yet it is so profound. It's up to the listener or the reader to interpret various things about this happening of the frog jumping into water and then the sound that is produced. And along with Japanese poetry, a particular design principle is associated, which is mono no aware, which is that awareness of things and the pathos of things. So I won't say more because I'm not talking of poetry right now, but please, you form your own interpretations about this haiku. So, coming to some of the key aesthetics and design principles. So, these are again rooted in ancient times and ancient principles which emphasize simplicity, minimalism, use of natural materials, and of course, connection to nature. Minimalism has largely evolved also from Zen Buddhism's philosophy, where austerity, as I just mentioned in relation to Seshu, who was a Zen monk, that austerity and minimalism and doing away with that which is unnecessary was so important. A key element is wabi sabi. Broadly speaking, you can say embracing imperfection. And but if we split the two terms, then wabi is that which is transient or impermanent, like what I was just talking about the sakura, the cherry blossoms, how they last for such a short while. Such is life, not just the blossoms. So much in life also is impermanent. And sabi is imperfection, and imperfection that we have to embrace. Aging, weathering, cracks, chipping away. You know, like if you have crockery and it's kind of chipped or broken, even that is very beautiful. In fact, they have a type of kind of craft, you can say kintsugi, where they take broken pieces and they join them together, and with gold they emphasize the cracks. So there is so much beauty in that. Now another concept is mujo, or perception of space. It is very core to the philosophy of Buddhism. Again, it is embracing impermanence of life and coexistence between perfection and that which breaks it. The Buddha himself maintained that everything on earth constantly changes, hence, nothing was everlasting nor absolute. Mujo can also be expressed by another term called ku, which is again core to philosophy of Buddhism, and we can translate it into emptiness, void, or sky. Buddhism describes that awareness of everything, including us, is empty, and it can only be defined by relative relations to other things. So, other humans, other sentient beings, everything that is there in nature. Another concept related to space is that of Ma, and this especially is the notion of empty space. And this defines mutual respect and harmony between life forms by displaying an awareness of personal space and thresholds. The Japanese, rather than shaking hand when you meet, they bow down. This is respecting the other person's space in a way. Other concepts which you can connect to design is Yugen and Shibui. This is subtle beauty, profound grace, and it is not to be seen in overtly ostentatious displays rather than in simplicity. And it evokes a feeling of course, beauty, which is tied to elegance, grace, and very understated. And all these aspects that I'm talking about, they are related to Zen, and we have seen and we see them in various art forms like Suibokuga I just mentioned, I suppose we've all heard about the tea ceremony, which is a very intense, very quiet, very peaceful tea ceremony. I won't go into that. No is very austere, it's difficult to understand, but it has exceptional beauty on its own. Haiku, I just talked about when I read out the poem by Basho. Now, contemporary Japanese design is it's often laced with traditional techniques. The slide which you see, the picture which you see on the top, that is the ladies, the geisha, which are dressed up in the traditional dresses. And behind them, if you look at the houses, they are in aged, weathered timber. So the contrast, and this is contemporary that you are seeing. Gion is a place in Kyoto, which is supposed to be where the geishas can be seen. And I'm deliberately contrasting it with a picture of a super contemporary building. This is the LV building, Louis Vuitton building in Tokyo. And here you see the cutting edge modern technology. And the metropolises in Japan, the big cities, they are neon soaked, and they have a multitude of buildings similar to this, the way you see. And but you will find aspects of natural elements. Like in the LV building, the inspiration by the architect was of flowing water. I think you can make it out in this particular work. Sustainability is a very key aspect, and Japan has pledged, I think, by 2030, if I'm not mistaken, to be net zero energy consumption and to be highly energy efficient and reuse, recycling, reclaiming, reducing waste and consumption. All these aspects are being very much followed, and the goals are being trying to be achieved for net zero energy consumption. Reducing the carbon footprint, of course. Less is more is a philosophy which is followed by some design houses like Muji, which we also see in India. I'll be talking about Muji slightly later. In architecture, how sustainability is being maintained is through bioclimatic design, where natural light is used, lot of ventilation, indoor-outdoor connections, which reduces heating and cooling needs, space optimization for net zero energy homes. So this creates compact, multifunctional areas to reduce resource and energy consumption. Then earthquake resistance is something which the government is very interested in. So they are building these structures to withstand seismic activity. Coming to fashions, a sustainable fashion, organic and recycled materials are being used. So, eco friendly materials in clothing, natural dyeing techniques, things like fruits and vegetable dyes are being used, and non chemical, that is. And then, zero waste design, where you use design principles to reduce waste. And quality is emphasized over quantity, and this focuses on durable, long lasting pieces. Uh, each garment that is made, especially jeans, they use up hundreds of liters of water. And if you'll keep on changing your clothes very frequently, then so much more impact on the environment. So if you can use the same garment over a longer time, then that itself is energy efficient. Then traditional craftsmanship is very much appreciated, and there is revival of traditional sustainable textile techniques. Then circular fashion, I just explained what circular is. That promotes second hand and vintage clothing also. To explain the slides that I put here, on the top there's a weathered wood door, and it's got a wine on it, and that so again displaying the love for nature. On the picture below is the stone, and on which you have the moss growing. Moss is really loved. There is a garden of Saioji in Kyoto which is known as a moss garden. And this displays the aspect of wabi sabi, which I just mentioned a little while ago. Sorry, I'm going to come to wabi sabi in detail now. And this is a huge subject which I have taken. And there are innumerable products which display this love for nature and sustainability. So I'm just going to take a few examples to just exemplify my concept. And because the time is very short. Now, when talking of wabi sabi, I'm taking up the examples of three fashion design. I'm taking up wabi sabi in relation to garment design. So I'm taking up three fashion designers: Yoji Yamamoto, Rei Kawakubo, and the absolutely iconic Issey Miyake. So, to quote Yamamoto, I have no desire to make the perfect garment. If one seeks perfection, one should enter the world of haute couture. The real thrill lies rather pursuant in the art of wabi sabi, the attempt to grab the tail of the slippery living that brings a serene melancholy. So the concept of wabi sabi was created by the tea master Senyo Rikyu, and I've explained sabi is closely associated with Zen concept of impermanence and imperfection. And in clothing, how these designers have translated it, they have used very radical elements like deconstructivist elements. They have frayed and irregularly stitched garments, torn hems, torn garments, functionless buttons, asymmetry, contrasting colors. Both of these, Yamamoto and Rei Kawakubo, they've been inspired by Senyo Rikyu. And Yamamoto's beauty in the unexpected, imperfection, impermanence. The clothes are often asymmetrical with folds, drapes, and unexpected seams, playing on the viewer's eye and challenging conventional ideas of balance. So the picture with the crowd all in black, actually the Yamamoto himself is also in the center, and this is stark black. Yamamoto loves black. He uses it a lot. Not that he doesn't use color, he also uses color a lot. And so this the kind of the shapeless kind of garments that the models are wearing, and so that is explaining the austerity and the simplicity and the minimalism that he prefers. Coming to again Yamamoto on the right side, here we have color, but if you look at the balloon like garment, then the body can't be seen. The Western concepts of fashion, are always emphasizing the curves of the body. They're highlighting the body, and here they are radically going against that, both these designers, and in fact the body is totally hidden. The work below is by Kawakubo, and she created a splash in 1981 with a Paris show where she challenged the Western ideals of beauty with uniqueness of wabi sabi, deconstructivism, and imperfection for true authenticity. So she had sloppily dressed models in her Paris show. I'm talking. She had sloppily dressed models, begrimed with drab war paint, bombastically striding onto the catwalk to unrelenting beat of drums. So, in so many ways, doing away with previous conventions of beauty. To show more works of Kawakubo. If you look at the one below, how they're just rolled up fabric and they're draping the body and you can't see the body at all. So it's the garment which is important rather than the body. And she also loves black like Yamamoto. So the picture above there, it's entirely black collection. And then she also gives them this weird headgear. She loves doing that. She's avant-garde, and she has influenced a lot of fashion, contemporary fashion in Japan. Not just Japan, but globally. And there are subtle touches of sustainability in her work, and she emphasizes on quality and longevity rather than fast fashion trends. See, fashion trends change every year, but she defies conventions and the traditional notions of beauty and of garment structure. And this adheres to the principles of a circular economy. Another concept which relates to that of space is Ma. And here again, I'd like to quote Yamamoto because I liked his quote so much. I like to leave a notion of blank space, what we call Ma in Japanese. I think it is the space that gives my clothes the Zen feeling. The picture on the top right, which you have, you see this is a temple ground, and there's a vast yard which is with white pebbles. And the white pebbles, they kind of give a feeling of a water body, and it's up to the viewer to wonder why this is so uncluttered, why there are no forms. You could have had so much. You could have had pathways, you could have had sculptures, you could have had vegetation, trees, other decorative elements. But this space itself, it gives the viewer uh, the visual space gives a mental image to the viewer to imagine himself what forms he would like to fill that space with. So modern Japanese interpretation of fashion, like I said, is totally radically different from that of the, at least with these designers that I'm talking about, from the Western concepts. Uh, uh, I'm talking less about Issei Miyake because so much is talked about Miyake, and I have talked about him in my earlier lectures on Japanese design a lot. So he uses very modern Japanese made, often synthetic materials and very innovative construction techniques. Like they are subjected to a lot of heat, and then they are folded into various pleats, and he has a whole line called pleats please. So in the garment that you see on the bottom, the gray one, and again, the figure is not very prominent, it's the garment which is important. And this is made in the pleat style that he likes to make. So very fantastical clothing items that he makes. Another of his, just to reflect on, is a piece of cloth where the body is covered with a single very large strip of fabric, left over loose parts for extravagance, and then he just has decorative sleeves or headscarves, and some of them sometimes spanning several meters and wrapped around. It reminds me of a sari, but it looks pretty different. So I'll okay, the very very interesting, this one. This is again a very radical concept. So this is the Persona firm. It's in Tokyo, and they hired the Kono design firm from New York to do this for them. So on the left is the huge office building, and they have, like, I think almost 20,000 square feet of space, if I'm not wrong in that figure. And both the outside facade of the building is a green building. It's covered with plants, as you can see, such a tall building. You can make out from the tallness from the small, tiny figures on the ground floor. And inside the building, they have farm. That is why Persona Urban Farm. And on the bottom you see that's rice being harvested. On the top there's some vegetables, maybe. You have tomato vines which come down from the ceiling, and fruit and vegetables like this. And the employees, they themselves also tend to this farm, and they also enjoy the produce. It's not enough to feed everybody, but the concept is to love, since you're living in an urban concrete, brick, steel, glass areas in the city. And then, but how you can bring nature into all this, and how you can enjoy, and how to deepen your love for nature. I just love this concept, the Persona Urban Farm. So I would like to take a little break from what I'm talking about design to talk about the importance of gratitude. Gratitude to nature, nature the bountiful, which gives life, which sustains life. And we should have a natural appreciation of life and acceptance of death with no morbid preoccupation. That's all a part of life which nature has given us. And to quote here uh, from an anonymous poet, this is from the Man Yushu, this is from the Nara period. And this is, it is a god that watches over Japan. It is her sacred treasure and her glory. Upon the peak of Fuji in Suruga, long may we gaze and never weary. So I am sure you've understood what this is being alluded to. The picture at the left will give you the idea. That's Mount Fuji, and this is an ode to Mount Fuji. Another quote: the feeling it awakens does not seem to be all aesthetic in the line of the artistically beautiful. There is something about it spiritually pure and enhancing. So, the regular concept of beauty that we may have, it's not just that, it's also the ethereal, the spiritual, which it brings up into us. I'm sorry, I've written his name wrong. This is Dai Sets Suzuki, not Dai Saku. Dai Sets Suzuki. It's from this book that I took. So this is in praise of Mount Fuji. And to come back to design. So this building is the Mount Fuji World Heritage Center in Shizuoka. It's at the foothills of Mount Fuji. And from here, when you go to the top of the building, you can get an unimpeded view of Mount Fuji. And the concept of the building by the architect Shigeru Ban is an inverted Fuji. I think if you look at it, you'll make out now. And it's a framework is all of wood that you can see. And in an inverted way, you're climbing, like you climb up Mount Fuji. Here you're climbing up on this building. And then the reflection of this building is seen in the water body in front. And with the mountain spring water of the basin used in the heating and cooling of the building. And then a 193-meter long spiral slope extends from the first floor up to the fifth, and allowing you to enjoy the exhibits on your way and experience a simulated climb up to Mount Fuji. And of course, the real Mount Fuji can be seen through large windows spread out on the top. An architect that I love, his exemplary work is Tadao Ando, and there are so many fabulous works by him. I'm just going to show two here, and how these are, of course, in particular highlighting the beauty of nature. So this was a site which was pre-existing Buddha statue was there. The Buddha statue that you see at the right, this was a cemetery, and he was sitting in isolation in this wide field, kind of what you can make out, the trees and the mountains and all there at the back. And then Ando was asked to maybe add to this site, and he in fact enclosed the Buddha in this round hill. You can see him inside, and the outside, if you see the violet flowers, these are lavender blooms, and in spring there are 150,000 lavender blooms have been planted, and in spring they just if you can make out the close up, and they all form a fabulous purple roundel around the head. Only the head of the Buddha can be seen. And when the walkway up to the building, and my picture is hiding it. Manali, can my picture go away? Anyway, it doesn't matter. So when you're walking up to this, you're just imagining what you will see now, like wings. This one here to the top left bottom. So they're like wings, the building, and then the walkway up to that. you're enjoying the thought of actually seeing the Buddha image. And then there is a tunnel 40 feet. So all of this is a very spiritual experience. And then finally you enter the hall, where it is roofless, as you can see above the head of the Buddha, and there you can see the sky, and the Buddha image is sitting there serenely. And then in the top view you can see how in a round formation the plants have been the lavender plants have been made. And this keeps changing with the season. Like in spring it's all purple, and then later it'll become green, and then later it gets snowed up, so it's all white. So the beauty of the seasons is there, the beauty of course of the man-made Buddha statue is there, and all the elements and visual changing colors, all of these can be enjoyed, and they imbue the visitor, the viewer, with a great feeling of calmness, of serenity. Another fabulous work by Tadao Ando is the Church of Light, and this is in Sapporo. And this one is a very stark kind of a structure, and it is also coming from criticism because of the sheer starkness of it. So at the far end, the east wall, what he's done is, since it's a church, he's just gashed the wall with a cross. So in the middle you can see the inside. On the right side you can see how the building looks from the outside, the east wall from the outside, and from the inside you can see the greenery outside. And it's the light, it's called the Church of Light, which is so ethereal, the way it's shimmering inside. And there is no decoration, there's no ornamentation, there are no painting, no statues. This is it, the lit up natural, the cross lit up with natural light. And many sustainable aspects have been used in this church. While it was being built, the scaffolding that itself was used later for the benches that you see and the floorboards, and it's made in concrete material which Ando loves. And if you know how it's done, for concrete you have to be careful how you will board it up when you're pouring the concrete. And it was done in such a way that the concrete itself, when light fell on it, the bottom right, the picture I've shown, that's showing how when light falls on the concrete, how it shimmers, even the concrete shimmers. And like I said, no ornamentation. And the top left, only one cross is there, and that is about it. So I'm kind of winding up. So the picture which is there on the top slide is that of the entrance of the Nezu Museum. And it says so much. That one picture is just the entrance. I deliberately put it. And it's a masterful amalgam of several elements, both the traditional and the contemporary. You have a bamboo lined up on one side, the green part of the bamboo. On the other side, you have the wooden bamboo stakes, and then several elements which always appeal to the Japanese. So you have stone, then you have the pebbles, and for lack of time, I thought I wouldn't have time. I didn't mention the famous Kare Sansui Gardens of Japan. Kare Sansui are the dry landscape gardens, and the most famous is Ryoanji, which is in Kyoto, where you just have a bed of pebbles, and then they are raked into spiral shapes, and then a few large stones are arranged as if they are hills. And the idea is to sit there, the Zen concept of sitting and just contemplating on this, the spirit of Ma, of Ku, of Mujo, of just space and just the ethereal quality that creates. So these pebbles you will find are very popular and very commonly seen in many design aspects in many areas of Japanese design. And the contemporary architecture comes in through, if you look at the awning and if you can make out the design features over there, so they are like starkly contrasting with the natural one, but yet they do not harm each other. They're causing the yin and the yang, the contrast, and just the yin and the yang is being caused by them. And this, to reflect a little bit on the this museum itself, it's very near Ginza, which is the most expensive real estate in Japan, of course, and maybe probably the whole world. And yet it is 17,000 square meters, which is about 4.2 acres, this whole museum. And it houses an impressive collection of the most priceless artifacts from ancient times. And it includes, by the way, several Indian artifacts. The Buddha statue that you see, that is Indian. And behind it, you can see the huge gardens that are with this museum. It's like a forest, the garden. And this, by the way, it was done by the architect Kengo Kuma, and this was rebuilt, the museum, and it was opened in 2009. So a masterful example of simplicity, of humbleness, of austerity, which is reflecting Zen principles, which contrast with the grandeur of the property. As I said, one of the most expensive real estates. So the last example that I give is of Muji. I'm sure you all know about this. Why I chose this was because this is now also in India. So this store is the concept. Their whole branding is less is more, and this is the antithesis of consumerism and modern age branding. Like everybody wants to buy something which is well known and which is highly branded, and for even if you don't quite care for it, even if it's too expensive, but you want to buy it just because of the brand rather than for the quality of the functionality. Well, none of that for Muji. And their whole concept is just to give quality products, and which will be sustainable, which will be long lasting, and they will be environment friendly. So they're into very many products, furniture, clothing, food products, but they're also doing buildings and many other aspects they've gone into. They've tied up with some other companies also. And so I won't go into that. And they encourage decluttering and being organized, and functional, affordable, essential rather than aspirational products, and multifunctional products. So recyclable, refillable pens, bottles, soap dispensers. The soap dispensers were very popular. The refilled ones, you know, they became like a kind of a signature product of theirs, you know. And so they avoid waste, not just in the making of the product, but in the production and in the packaging. And they've done radical things like taking products which would be wasted by other, thrown away by other companies. For example, shiitake mushrooms, which are very popular in Japan. So only the nice slices on the top are used, and the stalks are thrown away by most companies, but they would use them also. They're very much edible, you know. And in spaghetti, you only, other companies, they would want only the very neat looking straight spaghetti. So even the warped one, the U-shaped spaghetti, perfectly edible in terms of taste, in terms of look. Okay, it looks warped, but they would not throw that away. They would use that also. Then processes that have no bearing on a product's quality would be eliminated. You know, for example, bleaching process for pulp is omitted, so that the resulting paper is light beige, but that's okay. They'll use it in packaging. So avoiding waste wherever possible, but ensuring good quality, longer product life, and reducing replacement. So recycling, as it's mentioned here, in wool and textiles and byproducts, and in their distribution centers, they use solar panels. So they are encouraging sustainability and energy, saving of energy. So that was the last slide that I was talking about. And uh, probably I don't need a formal conclusion because I have said so much in all of these that everywhere through this presentation, the Japanese love for nature has come forth, and it is timeless from the beginning of whenever. And nature is so magnificent, nature is so bountiful, nature is so giving. And so we must save it, we must treasure this heritage of nature, and it is for our generations only, our future generations, for us to be live in harmonious coexistence of nature and to preserve it for our future generations. So this is what the Japanese deeply believe in, and which we are seeing in so many areas of design, Japanese design, aesthetics, and related to the products. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Anu Jindal, for your riveting talk that gave us a very interesting perspective and also a Japanese worldview, which is centered on acceptance of transience and imperfection. Through your slides, we came to know the innate love for nature and how we should make good use of recycling various products, that they value minimalistic simplicity, wherein imperfection and the natural patina of aging is well integrated, is based on their Zen philosophy, as they are. And the concepts of wabi sabi and ikigai also lead to reduction in consumption, which is a key aspect of sustainability alongside living in harmony with nature. I have been to Japan 2 week for 2 weeks for a paper presentation, and I was very much impressed with their rustic use of rustic beams, wooden accents, large windows, sliding doors, Japanese lanterns, calligraphy art, and open spaces that enhances their cultural authenticity and visual interest in the spaces. The Church of Light, which had an interplay of light and minimalism, was a very very interesting concept. You can just, it is very very forceful but still very simple. I think that is how the Japanese have integrated everything so very aesthetically. I must mention here that ancient Indian aesthetics is also rooted in concepts like rasa and interconnectedness with the nature, with sustainable practices in architecture, agriculture, and resource management. We had sophisticated water harvesting systems like step wells and tanks to collect and store rainwater, crucial for our hot and dry climate. Natural ventilation and cooling was by incorporating features like courtyards, high ceilings, and thick walls to maintain the comfortable temperatures. We also had locally sourced materials, reducing the need for long distance transportation and promoting resource conservation and adaptive reuse. But unfortunately, unlike the Japanese, we seem to have given a go by to all these ancient and sustainable practices. So thank you once again, Dr. Anu Jindal. That was a very interesting talk, reiterating that we have to be one with nature, and nature has to be respected. So I request Manali Momaya to read out the comments and questions, if any, from the chat box.
Sure. Thank you so much, ma'am. I'll put back Dr. Jindal. So we have a lot of comments here, congratulatory messages. Dr. T.H. Ravi Shankar sir, thank you for joining us. Dr. Sushila, good evening. Very happy to be part of this interesting session. Indeed, it was a very interesting session. Dr. Gurjeet Singh has said such a fascinating subject. Truly said, sir. Subrat Birlaji has said interesting subject. Sudeep, very interesting, very intriguing topic, wonderful. And Jaisim, Fountainhead, a very objective. So, yeah, this is a request. If anybody has any questions or observations to make, kindly put it in the chat box. Uh, and in the meanwhile, I will take up two questions that are already in the comment section. So, we also have Another comment by Subratji, very beautiful and out of the world, the Buddha Hill. And indeed, the lavender covered dome around the Buddha is absolutely out of this world. And Japanese minimalism expressed very well in the talk. Thank you so much, ma'am. Again, as said by Dr. Geeta ma'am, Church of Light is a wonderful, marvelous piece of creativity of the designers, the architects. Ma'am, I have a question which I have posted. Japanese aesthetics often emphasize minimalism and imperfection, as you have already covered in your talk. How does this contrast with design philosophies in other cultures? Not just contrast, or if we can find similarities in other cultures, including India.
See, I'll give a generalized answer rather than specifically to this. See, the way we Easterners look at creation, at aesthetic expression, is very different from the West. For us, it's the profundity, the deepness of the concept, the philosophy, which is so important, and not just the realistic representation. Like if you look at Leonardo da Vinci's paintings, he is so super famous, and I mentioned Sesshu Toyu, and I don't know if you ask the general people, will they have heard about him? Everybody's heard about Leonardo. Actually, they lived in the same time period. And for me, Sesshu Toyo is just as great a genius, if not more, than Leonardo. And anyway, coming to Leonardo's painting, it is often said about his painting that he creates a hole in the painting. He's so fond of perspective, Manali, just like you're looking right now. The two lines that are going behind your head, this is how we have in Leonardo's works. So it's impeccable, his understanding of perspective drawing, but it's not necessary. It's not important to be so specific to how actually you see in nature, rather how we humans interpret it. So the similar vein comes in play in Indian art. Since you asked about Indian art, like if you look, the bulk of art is devoted to religion, to the gods. So if you see the central figure, let's say of the Surya Devta, which is from Konark, which is displayed in the National Museum foyer. So the main central deity is large, and the other figures, they're all small. Why? Because to highlight the supernatural quality of the main deity. So it's contrary to realism. And so there are so many ways in which Indian expression is matches with that of the thought of the East, with other, not just Japan but also Korea, China. So we have these similarities, and Geeta has so beautifully delineated. She's also formed the parallels which are so true. Yeah.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Sushmita ji has written interesting subject. There's another, yes, Jaisim ji has written wonderful. Thank you for sharing your experience. Thank you so much for enlightening us with such amazing details. Indira ji has written very informative and interesting talk. Dr. Ravi Shankar sir has written, identifying with nature is magnificent. Beautiful talk indeed. It's as beautiful as the subject chosen for the talk. My great admiration and appreciation for the speaker. Uh, and Jaisim ji has written, culture is expressed in architecture through historic spirituality. And Subrat ji has asked, when are you next planning for a similar webinar or physical presentation?
Can't say. I do it all the time. So Subrat is in Delhi, so at IIC, I suppose. So yeah.
Yes, ma'am. And I do have another question. As an art enthusiast myself and a student of history and a lot of interests, can these principles of Wabi Sabi and Ma that you have covered in the presentation be applied in everyday life beyond architecture and design, in other things such as fashion or interior decor or planning and all that?
Actually, this question has been answered through the talk with the examples, which were Japanese examples. So we can use the same template in our country, wherever we are, rather than you just clutter the whole place with so many elements, so that nothing really comes forth. Hmm. So, so have less of elements, have less of bombast, have less of ornamentation, and you've done it. So, whatever all these examples are already there of urban planning. Also, I showed you some spaces, where just okay. I'll give you an example. Like Fatehpur Sikri, uh, I went, and there was entirely stone. It had huge compound which was entirely stone. There was no greenery. So I love greenery, but they had their own beauty because they were very soft color and the sandstone, light colored, the vast area of stone, and there was nothing. So in the far ends of the complex, you had the buildings. So that decluttering itself, that simplicity, so beautiful. So this is how we can do. It is up to us, how we ourselves apply these principles. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, ma'am. Jaisamji has suggested a topic for discussion further: sari and kimono.
Yeah.
Very interesting indeed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, the draped garment. Yeah, I talked about Issey Miyake. He also created the draped garment, but it was very elaborate. I didn't show a picture of it, but the picture I showed that gave an idea of how he had done. You know, so it's a nice suggestion. Yes.
For your information, Jaisim San is the architect, a
We can
maverick
see.
architect of Fountainhead, and he is the president of Lotus and Chrysanthemum Trust. So, Jaisim San, next time you arrange some 2, 3 webinars. It was me who was doing all this thing. You please give some suggestions. We can have these wonderful talks that you have suggested.
Yeah. Yes.
And finally, Ramya ji has written excellent session. So there are no further questions in the chat box. If
So I think
ma'am has to add anything to this.
Are you asking me? I think you're asking Geeta.
I'm asking the both of you, ma'am, if anybody has anything to add to this.
Well, actually, this is such a vast subject that I'm sorry if I haven't included so many things. I'm glad Geeta mentioned, other examples, and it's too vast a subject. I haven't taken Japanese ceramics; they are so beautiful. And the weathered sabi aspect is very much seen in Japanese ceramics. I haven't taken them, and so many areas, everyday products that you have, and in everything you have, but I haven't taken those examples really, so I'm sorry for that. But I wanted to stay within my time of 40-45 minutes. I managed within it. So, and I
you have one of
encourage everybody to explore these various aspects. You check out. Thankfully now we have the internet, god, Google. So just type wabi sabi or ma or ku or mujo, and there are many other, by the way, principles I'm not even touched on it, like sanso, which is simplicity again. So um, key, there are so many. So please search yourself, and a whole Pandora's box is open for you to enjoy.
Yes,
Thank you so
Dr. Anu Jindal, there is so much that has been left unsaid, and in a short span of 40 to 45 minutes, you have done the very best that you could do. You have effectively conveyed what you wanted to say, all about wabi sabi and the other principles, and effectively how minimalization is so very a part of their way of life. I don't think you could have added anything more. It was very compact, comprehensive, and effectively conveyed the meaning. So, on this note, ladies and gentlemen, we conclude this today's session, and I thank each and every one of you for taking time off and joining in this wonderful session with Dr. Anu Jindal, Manali Momaya, and myself, the managing trustee. So we hope to see you again next month, because these are all monthly webinars, and we hope to bring an equally interesting subject and a speaker. So thank you once again, and Shubharatri.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We are signing off here. See you all again
Yes,
soon.
thank you.
Bye.